Discovery. The storm raged across the alien landscape, battering the research outpost with relentless fury. Lieutenant Commander Ethan Hope stood at the viewport watching lightning tear through the violet sky of Proximus B, illuminating the strange twisted vegetation that covered the valley below. His expedition had been on this planet for 3 months cataloging flora and fauna for Earth's Interstellar Exploration Initiative, but tonight something felt different. "Sir, you need to see this," called Specialist Chivers, his voice crackling through the comm system. "Seismic readings are off the charts in Sector 7. Ethan frowned. "Natural or otherwise?" "Unknown, but it's causing a massive ground collapse about 2 clicks north." Grabbing his environmental suit, Ethan made a snap decision. "Prep the rover. We're heading out." "In this storm, sir." "Protocol states." "I'm well aware of protocol, Specialist," Ethan cut him off, already sealing his helmet. "But whatever is happening won't wait for the weather to clear." 20 minutes later, the rover bounced across the alien terrain, its reinforced chassis handling the rough ground with practiced ease. The storm had intensified, sheets of acidic rain pounding against the vehicle's protective shell. "There." Chivers pointed through the windshield. Ahead, a massive sinkhole had opened in the ground, at least 50 meters across. The rover's headlights caught glimpses of something shimmering beneath the surface. "Some kind of structure," Ethan muttered, bringing the vehicle to a halt at a safe distance. "Ancient tech maybe." They approached cautiously on foot, tethered to the rover. The hole revealed what appeared to be a buried chamber, its walls lined with a material that resembled polished obsidian but glowed with an inner light. "Holy shit," Chivers whispered, his breath fogging his visor. "This is way beyond anything we've encountered before." As they descended into the chamber, Ethan noticed something small moving in the corner, a creature no larger than his palm with bright blue fur and piercing ice blue eyes that seemed to glow in the darkness. It cowered, clearly injured, a trail of luminescent blue fluid leaking from a wound on its flank. "What the hell is that?" Chivers asked, reaching for his scanner. Before Ethan could respond, the ground shook violently. The chamber was collapsing. "We need to go now," Ethan shouted, but as he turned to leave, he found himself staring at the small creature again, and something in those intelligent eyes held him transfixed. Without thinking, he scooped it up and tucked it into a specimen pouch on his suit. They barely made it back to the rover before the entire structure imploded, sending a shock wave that nearly toppled their vehicle. As they sped back toward the outpost, Ethan felt the small creature moving against his chest, its tiny heartbeat racing in sync with his own. Back at the base, the science team was eager to examine the new specimen, but Ethan felt an inexplicable protectiveness toward it. "It needs medical attention first," he insisted, taking it to his quarters instead of the lab. There, he carefully cleaned its wound with antiseptic and offered it water and small bits of protein rations, which it cautiously accepted. "What are you?" Ethan whispered as the creature curled up on his pillow, its blue fur shimmering slightly in the dim light. "And why do I feel like I was meant to find you?" That night, as Ethan drifted off to sleep, the creature crawled closer, pressing itself against his neck. In his dreams, he saw flashes of a vast civilization, green-skinned humanoids with silver hair and massive beasts with blue fur standing guard over ornate temples. When he woke, the creature was staring at him with those impossibly intelligent eyes, and Ethan knew his life had changed forever. Growth. 6 months passed in a blur of activity. Ethan had named the blue-furred creature Cobalt for its striking color, and its growth had been nothing short of miraculous. What had once fit in his palm now stood knee-high with powerful limbs and a more defined predatory appearance. Its fur remained the same vibrant blue but now rippled with muscle beneath. "Another 2 kilos since last week," Ethan noted, recording Cobalt's measurements in his personal log. The creature watched him with those intelligent ice-blue eyes, a connection between them that transcended words. The expedition leaders had been surprisingly accommodating about Ethan keeping Cobalt, largely because the creature had shown no aggression toward humans and seemed genuinely attached to him. Still, Ethan knew their patience had limits. "Commander Hope, Captain Harrington's voice crackled over the intercom. My office. Now. Ethan found the captain reviewing data on his terminal, his weathered face grim. Explain this, Harrington said, turning the screen toward Ethan. It showed energy readings from Cobalt's quarters, pulsing, complex patterns that resembled nothing in their database. I can't, sir, Ethan admitted. But he's not dangerous. Harrington raised an eyebrow. You've grown attached to this thing. That compromises your judgment. With respect, sir, there's more to Cobalt than we understand. He's intelligent, possibly sentient. Harrington leaned back. Earth Command wants it transferred to the research facility on Europa. The transport arrives in 3 days. Ethan felt his chest tighten. Sir, I don't think separating us is wise. There's a connection. A connection? Harrington's voice sharpened. Elaborate. Ethan hesitated, then decided on honesty. I've been having dreams, visions, really, of another world, another civilization. And I believe they're coming from Cobalt. You're claiming the creature is telepathic. I know how it sounds, but... An alarm cut him off. The base's proximity sensors had detected something entering orbit. Unidentified vessel, announced the AI system. Non-terrestrial design approaching on intercept course. They rushed to the command center where screens displayed a sleek, iridescent ship unlike anything in human records. It was beautiful, with curves that seemed to flow like liquid metal. They're hailing us, reported Communications Officer Preston. On screen, ordered Harrington. The view screen flickered, revealing a humanoid figure with smooth green skin and flowing silver hair. Elegant pointed ears framed a face of striking alien beauty. The being wore what appeared to be ceremonial armor of a golden bronze material that accentuated a distinctly feminine form. I am Princess Farera of the Vidia Collective, she announced in perfect English, her voice melodic yet commanding. You have something that belongs to us. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. The green-skinned aliens from his dreams stood before him, real and imperious. We are a peaceful research expedition, Harrington responded cautiously. What exactly do you believe we possess? A guardian cub, she replied. Stolen from a sacred temple during its awakening ceremony. Our sensors detect its energy signature on your base. Ethan stepped forward. It wasn't stolen. I found it injured after a structural collapse. I've been caring for it. The princess's eyes narrowed, studying him with sudden intensity. You. A human has been raising a guardian? His name is Cobalt, Ethan said, feeling strangely defensive. Something like shock passed across her features. Impossible. Guardians bond only with the royal bloodline of Vidia. They are our sacred protectors, linked to us through ancient pacts. At that moment, the doors to the command center slid open, and Cobalt bounded in, now easily the size of a large earth dog. He moved directly to Ethan's side, then turned to face the screen. A low rumbling sound emerged from his throat as he stared at Princess Farera. The princess's composure faltered. By the ancestors, it is bonded with you. Her voice was barely above a whisper. This changes everything. What does that mean? Ethan asked, placing a protective hand on Cobalt's head. It means, human, that you must return with us to Vidia immediately. The Guardian's growth cycle has begun, and without proper guidance, it could become dangerous to everyone around it, including you. Confrontation. Captain Harrington stepped forward. Now wait just a minute. Commander Hope is under my authority and... Your authority means nothing in this matter, Farera interrupted coldly. This is about the survival of my people and potentially yours as well. When a guardian reaches maturity without proper bonding rituals, its power becomes unstable. Ethan felt Cobalt press against his leg, a wave of images suddenly flooding his mind, vast temples, ceremonial fires, and massive blue-furred beasts standing guard over a civilization of green-skinned people. I'll go, Ethan said, surprising himself. But I want assurances of safe return once this is resolved. Princess Ferrara's expression remained unreadable. The situation is complicated. The bond you formed should not be possible. Our scholars will need to examine you both. Captain Harrington looked furious. Hope, you can't seriously be considering this. Sir, with respect, I don't think we have a choice. If what she says is true, Cobalt could become a danger to the base. And... He hesitated. I need to understand what's happening between us. As if in response, Cobalt grew visibly larger before their eyes, his shoulders broadening and claws extending. The transformation lasted only seconds, but it left everyone in the room speechless. You have one planetary rotation to prepare, Princess Ferrara declared. We will send transport coordinates. The transmission ended abruptly. In the silence that followed, Ethan looked down at Cobalt, whose intelligent eyes seemed to hold both apology and promise. Whatever lay ahead on Vidia, they would face it together. The Vidian transport vessel descended through iridescent clouds toward a landscape that took Ethan's breath away. Vast emerald forests stretched to the horizon, interrupted by gleaming cities that seemed to grow organically from the terrain. Towering spires of what appeared to be living crystal reached skyward, connected by graceful arches that caught the light of twin suns. Welcome to Vidia, Princess Ferrara said, her voice softer than it had been during their first encounter. She stood beside him at the viewport, her silver hair reflecting the changing colors of the atmosphere. Few humans have ever seen our homeworld. Ethan nodded, acutely aware of her proximity. Despite her alien features, there was something undeniably alluring about Ferrara, a regal confidence that commanded attention. It's beautiful, he said simply, watching Cobalt press his now substantial form against the viewport, ears perked forward with interest. The creature had grown another few inches during their journey, now reaching Ethan's waist. The Temple of Guardians awaits, Ferrara continued, gesturing toward a massive structure nestled between two mountains. There we will begin to understand your unusual situation. The transport landed on a platform adjacent to the temple, where a delegation of green-skinned officials waited, their expressions ranging from curiosity to open hostility. Ethan noted they all wore similar golden-bronze ceremonial armor, though none as elaborate as Ferrara's. My father, High Sovereign Talon, Ferrara introduced a tall, imposing figure whose silver hair was adorned with intricate metalwork. The sovereign regarded Ethan with piercing eyes. So this is the human who defies our most sacred traditions. His gaze shifted to Cobalt. And this is the guardian cub bonded to an outsider. Before Ethan could respond, Cobalt stepped forward and emitted a low rumbling sound, not threatening but assertive. To Ethan's surprise, the assembled Vidians, including the High Sovereign, took a step back. Impossible, whispered one of the advisors. It recognizes the human as its true bondmate. Take them to the inner sanctum, the Sovereign ordered. Summon the Keeper of Lore. As they were escorted through the temple's vast corridors, Ethan noticed something strange. Other guardians, massive, fully grown versions of Cobalt with blue fur and ice-blue eyes, lined the passageways. Each stood at least 3 meters tall with powerful bodies and intelligent gazes, and each one, as Ethan passed, inclined its head slightly toward him. They're acknowledging you, Ferrara said, her voice tight with what might have been concern or fear. This has never happened before. Revelation. The inner sanctum proved to be a circular chamber with a pool of luminescent liquid at its center. Ancient symbols covered the walls, and a wizened Vidian waited for them, his green skin faded almost to white with age. I am Mentor Krell, he introduced himself. For 60 cycles, I have studied the Guardian Bond, and never have I witnessed what stands before me now. Krell circled Ethan and Cobalt, muttering to himself. The legends speak of resonance, the energy signature that allows royals to bond with guardians. But this human. He produced a handheld device that emitted soft pulses of light. Extraordinary. Your energy pattern is nearly identical to our royal bloodline, yet distinctly human. What does that mean? Ethan asked. It means, young human, that you have exposed the great lie of our civilization. Krell's eyes darted to Farera and back. The Guardians choose their companions based on compatible energy signatures, not species, not bloodlines. The royal family has manipulated this truth for generations. Farera stepped forward, her composure slipping. That's heresy, Mentor Krell. The sacred texts clearly state. The texts were altered, Krell interrupted, by your ancestors to ensure their continued rule. The Guardians were never meant to be controlled by a single family. The revelation hung in the air like a physical presence. Ethan felt Cobalt press against his leg, projecting feelings of confirmation. Is this true? Ethan asked Farera directly. Her emerald eyes met his, conflicted emotions playing across her features. I was taught the bond was our birthright, our divine privilege. And now other Guardians respond to him, Krell continued. The truth cannot be contained any longer. As if summoned by his words, a deep rumbling shook the chamber. Outside, the sounds of commotion grew, roars and shouts intermingling. What's happening? Ethan demanded. Krell's expression was grim yet satisfied. The awakening. The Guardians sense the truth through their connection to your companion. They're responding to your presence, questioning their bonds. Farera's communicator chimed urgently. The Temple Guardians are becoming restless, reported a panicked voice. They're not responding to commands. The princess turned to Ethan, her earlier coldness replaced by something more complex, respect mingled with a hint of vulnerability. You must help us. If the Guardians reject their bonds en masse, chaos will follow. Their eyes locked, and Ethan felt an unexpected current pass between them, not telepathic like his connection with Cobalt, but something equally powerful. Despite everything, he found himself drawn to her strength, her fierce dedication to her people. I'll help, he said, but no more lies. Your people deserve the truth. Farera stepped closer, the distance between them charged with unspoken tension. Then teach me, human. Show me how to forge a true bond, not based on manipulation or control. The double meaning in her words wasn't lost on Ethan. Cobalt made a sound that seemed suspiciously like amusement, nudging Ethan forward with his substantial shoulder. First lesson, Ethan said, his voice low. Trust goes both ways. As they left the chamber to face the growing crisis, Farera's hand brushed against his, a brief contact that sent an unexpected thrill through his body. Whatever lay ahead, the relationship between human and Vidian royalty had shifted irrevocably. Night fell over Vidia, the twin moons casting an ethereal glow across the temple grounds. Ethan stood on a balcony overlooking the Guardian enclosure, where Cobalt, now nearly twice his original size, interacted with the other massive blue-furred creatures. Their behavior had stabilized somewhat after Ethan's arrival, but tension still permeated the air. Remarkable, came Mentor Krell's voice as the elderly Vidian joined him. They recognize him as one of their chosen, and by extension, they recognize you. Ethan turned. You mentioned ancient texts earlier. What exactly do they say about someone like me? Krell's eyes glinted in the moonlight. The prophecy of the outsider bond, written before the royal family's manipulation began. He produced a small weathered scroll from his robes. It speaks of one who comes from beyond the stars, bonded to a guardian without training or ritual. This outsider would break the chains of false tradition and restore the true path of bonding. And you believe that's me? Ethan asked skeptically. The evidence is before us, Krell gestured toward Cobalt, who had grown visibly larger even in the past few hours. Your guardian develops faster than any in our records, drawing strength from your natural bond. Then the others respond to your presence without compulsion. A soft sound behind them announced Farera's arrival. She had exchanged her ceremonial armor for simpler attire, a flowing garment that accentuated her lithe form. The High Council is in emergency session, she said, her voice tight with concern. My cousin, Lord Vex, is calling for your immediate containment. Containment? Ethan raised an eyebrow. A diplomatic term for imprisonment, Krell clarified. Or worse. Farera stepped closer to Ethan, her silver hair gleaming in the moonlight. Vex has always coveted the throne. He sees you as both threat and opportunity, a way to discredit my father and seize power. We must move quickly, Krell said. The ancient texts are kept in the sacred archives beneath the southern temple. They contain the complete prophecy and instructions for a true bonding ceremony that would legitimize your position. My position? Ethan questioned. Ferrara's emerald eyes met his. According to tradition, an outsider bondmate would hold status equal to royalty. It would give you authority to implement changes to our guardian bonding practices, and challenge Vex's ambitions. Transformation. Dawn broke over the sacred archives, casting honeyed light through ancient crystal windows. Ethan, Farera, and Krell had spent the night poring over texts that had been hidden for generations, scrolls that told a very different history of the Vidian people and their guardian companions. The original bonding ceremony, Krell explained, carefully unrolling a delicate manuscript, was meant to be an equal partnership. The guardians were never servants, but allies who chose their companions. Cobalt, now towering nearly to Ethan's shoulder, watched attentively as if understanding every word. His growth had accelerated dramatically overnight, muscle and sinew rippling beneath his azure coat. We have to hurry, Farera warned, glancing anxiously at her communication device. Vex has convinced half the council that you're a threat to our entire way of life. They're sending elite guards to detain you both. Krell nodded gravely. Then we must complete the true bonding ritual now, before they arrive. The ancient Vidian led them to a circular platform at the center of the archives where symbols matching those in the chamber above glowed with subtle energy. Ethan felt Cobalt's presence in his mind strengthen as they stepped onto the platform together. Princess, Krell said solemnly, you must decide. Will you witness this and stand with the truth, or maintain the lie that has sustained your family's power? Ferrara's emerald eyes met Ethan's, something powerful and unspoken passing between them. Without hesitation, she stepped onto the platform. I choose truth. Then let us begin, Krell intoned, his voice suddenly taking on a resonant quality that filled the chamber. The bond between guardian and companion is not one of mastery, but of mutual respect and shared purpose. As the ancient Vidian began reciting words in a language Ethan didn't understand, Cobalt pressed his massive head against Ethan's chest. Images and emotions flooded his mind, not just from Cobalt but seemingly from all guardians throughout Vidian history. Suddenly, the chamber doors burst open. Lord Vex stood there, flanked by armored guards, his face contorted with rage. Treason, he shouted, pointing an accusatory finger at Farera. Consorting with aliens to undermine our sacred traditions. Seize them all. But before the guards could move, Cobalt let out a deafening roar. The sound reverberated through the archives with such force that the guards staggered back. Then, to everyone's astonishment, Cobalt began to transform. His body elongated, muscles expanding exponentially. Within seconds, he stood over 3 meters tall, his blue fur now gleaming with an internal light that pulsed in time with Ethan's heartbeat. The connection between them had never felt stronger. Ethan could sense Cobalt's thoughts, his emotions, his very essence merging with his own. From outside came answering roars, dozens of them. The other guardians were responding. What have you done? Vex whispered, his bravado faltering. He has restored balance, Krell answered, a satisfied smile crossing his ancient features. The true bond has been re-established. Cobalt stepped forward, towering over the Vidian soldiers. But instead of attacking, he lowered his massive head in a gesture of peace. Through their connection, Ethan understood. The Guardians don't want conflict, Ethan announced, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. They want choice, just as your ancestors intended before the royal family manipulated the bonding process. Lies. Vex spat, though his voice wavered. Farera moved to stand beside Ethan, her shoulder touching his. No, cousin. The lies end today. She turned to address the guards. Bring my father. He needs to witness this truth himself. 3 days later, Ethan stood on the same balcony where he had spoken with Krell, watching as Vidian citizens gathered in the courtyard below. The High Sovereign had, after much deliberation and facing the undeniable evidence of the ancient texts, decreed that a new era would begin, one where guardians would choose their companions based on true compatibility rather than bloodline. You've upended our entire society in less than a week, Farera said, joining him at the railing. I'm not sure whether to thank you or blame you. Ethan smiled, feeling Cobalt's contentment through their bond. The massive guardian lay nearby, watching the proceedings with intelligent eyes. Change was coming whether I arrived or not. The truth has a way of emerging eventually. Will you return to your people? She asked, the question casual but her tone betraying deeper interest. Eventually, Ethan admitted. I have responsibilities there. But I'm thinking I might request a permanent diplomatic posting to Vidia. Someone needs to maintain relations between our worlds. A diplomatic posting, Farera repeated, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. And would this diplomat have quarters in the royal palace, perhaps? Ethan felt warmth spread through him that had nothing to do with the Vidian sons. If the princess wouldn't object. She wouldn't, Farera said softly, her hand finding his on the railing. Besides, Cobalt has made it clear he considers Vidia home now. Below them, the first ceremonies were beginning, Vidians of all ranks approaching the guardians, letting natural resonance determine true bonds. Already, several non-royal citizens had been chosen, their faces alight with wonder as they experienced the mental connection for the first time. A new beginning, Ethan murmured. For all of us, Farera agreed, leaning closer. Cobalt rumbled his approval, the sound reverberating through Ethan's mind like laughter. Through their connection, Ethan sensed the Guardian's satisfaction at having found not just a companion, but a purpose, bridging two worlds that might otherwise have remained forever apart. As the twin sons of Vidia began their descent toward the horizon, casting the scene in golden light, Ethan realized that what had begun with a small injured creature in a collapsed alien structure had transformed not just his life, but the destiny of an entire civilization. And somehow, that felt exactly right. The end.